Today we start a series about parenting. And you may be young, you may be old, but everybody is parenting. That's part of life. It's part of the life that God has planned. And you may be a physical parent. Most of us would be, or have been, or are. Some others, and most of us, probably all of us, will be spiritual parents, mentors, guardians, people that guide other children. I remember when we were in Nigeria, there was something very precious about the culture there. The children didn't belong to the parents. They were understood to belong to the whole community. So, for example, if your child goes out, he's out of sight for you, but he's never out of sight for all those around. We lived on a campus, physical campus, and the children were watched over by the whole community. And so people could say, oh, your child is here, your child is there. If your child misbehaves, people will not turn a blind eye like they do here, in Europe most of the time. They would rebuke the child and say, are you not ashamed? Your parents will be really annoyed. They will talk to him. And even there are times that it became even drastic. Like, for example, a child is beaten or punished because he or she has misbehaved, and they will run out of the parents' home and run to the neighbors. And the neighbors will now become the advocate of the child. They will bring the child back and say, well, maybe that child misbehaved, forgive, after all, it's a child, And that was a really valuable and nice way of bringing up children. Now we have to be conscious that children don't belong to us. You may have mothered or fathered a child. You call him or her your child, but God says that children belong to him because we all belong to him. That's what is written in Psalm 127, Psalm 100, and Isaiah 43, for example. Children are a gift from God, but they are loaned to us. Every parent that is above 35, 40 would know that your children start, very little. You cradle them, you feed them, you clean them, you clothe them, you guide them. Then you teach them gradually to become independent. You teach them to talk, you teach them to walk, you teach them to cross the street, you teach them to use a bike, and then a car, possibly. And then one day the children say bye, and they leave. Whether they leave for work or for further studies, or some of them leave for other countries. And those of us that have several countries of our own, because we have married in intercultural marriages, know that the children have a choice. They can either stay in the country we live now or go to any of the countries we came from, because those are theirs by choice. They are free to do that, and they can even decide to go anywhere on the planet. And once they are adult, you have to completely release them. But we release them in the hands of God. And I want to share with you something that God taught me, and it was quite painful actually. When we got our first child, I was watching over him like a hawk, making sure I was always around. Even if I go to work, within 2 hours I'm back, checking, because my work had a flexible timetable. I was always around him. And then he was diagnosed with a degenerative disease. And that even increased my feeling of protection concerning him. I carried him times without number to the hospital for treatment. I was accompanying him into, the phases of his disease, helping him to start walking again, using crutches, all kinds of things, treatment of all kinds. When he was in need of further diagnosis. I accompanied him. I traveled with him. But in the end, he died. And I went to God because that day he told me, I've healed him. And I believed him by faith because I didn't see anything like that. It was not visible physically. And then he died. And I told God, but you say he is healed. And he said, yes, he is healed. And also, what additional thing he said was that children belong to him. My child was not my child. It was given to us as a loan to nurture, to care for, to accompany, in his mission on earth, whether this mission is short or longer. And so I learned a painful lesson. And then I got 4 other children. But those children, I knew now that they were not our own. And so while I accompanied them, I encouraged them, I still watched over them and all. But in my heart, I knew that their protection was from God, not from me. After I tried everything, I had to leave them in the hands of God. And now that they are adults, I know that they still belong to God and have to learn how to be a parent of adults, play my part, and especially every day, pray for them. Stand in the gap. Ask God to direct them. If I see them making mistakes, I'll pray and tell God. You cannot force yourself on adults. So you have to learn that children belong to God, just like we belong to God. So I want to encourage you. Don't overprotect your children. Don't smother them. Don't fight for them as if they were your property. Don't try to push your dreams onto them and force them what you want. Watch over them with care, knowing that they belong to someone that will eventually ask you what you did with his property. Bless you.